TheDriven.io has just reported today that the most polluting companies in the world are actually not fossil fuel companies. My brain is still going, what? Is this real? Apparently, legacy auto companies, as in Toyota, the Volkswagen Group, General Motors, you get the picture. Apparently, they pollute significantly more than fossil fuel companies. I mean, I'm not sure how this is the case, but if the experts say it is, then it most certainly is. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Now, we can look at this a few different ways, right? I mean, realistically, when you drive an internal combustion vehicle, a particularly diesel-powered vehicle, but also gasoline, petrol-powered as well, you're burning fossil fuels, right? And you're spitting those hydrocarbons into the air, but you're also spitting out these terrible gases that cause cancer. Absolutely horrendous. Now, this is like a dual partnership. It's like the partnership from hell, Bonnie and Clyde. It's, basically the devil and the devil's brother or something like that getting together and just causing mayhem. But interestingly, I always thought that fossil fuel companies were worse than legacy car companies, but they're not. A damning new report says The Driven has found legacy car makers are significantly lying. They say underestimating, but I'm going to call that lying, about the lifetime emissions of their internal combustion engine vehicles, and that investments in car makers are on average more carbon intensive than investments in oil companies. The joint report released by global think tanks Nomisma and Carbon Tracker, which don't really have any incentive reason. There's no funding reason for them to side with fossil fuels here. And to be honest, they're not even saying fossil fuels are doing anything good. They're just saying legacy auto is even worse than fossil fuels. Anyway, this report found that ESG ratings used by financial institutions failed to capture the true impact of the automotive companies, and that the EU's sustainable finance taxonomy offers a much more accurate representation of companies' impact on climate and its impact on the environment. The report finds that when Scope 3 emissions are included, which they should have been, but they weren't for some reason previously, some automotive companies generate more emissions than entire G7 economies. This is insane. The CO2 emissions from Toyota, Volkswagen, and Stellantis combined are higher than the total emissions of the UK, France, and Italy put together. The emissions from Toyota, Volkswagen, and Stellantis, I want to repeat that, are higher than the sum total of emissions of the UK, France, and Italy put together, the three largest economies of Europe. That is insane. Investments in legacy automotive companies are more carbon intensive than oil companies. So I think if the public knew this information, maybe less people would be interested in investing in these companies. This might drive their policies. Maybe Toyota, Volkswagen Group, and Stellantis would be maybe more invested into manufacturing more EVs. I mean, less than 1% of the vehicles Toyota sold in 2023 were fully electric because they don't really care. Investors are, not putting any serious pressure on them to change. But I think investors probably are unaware of this information. So if you know someone who's invested in one of these car companies, tell them what's really going on here. The study analyzed and compared the carbon intensity of investments in internal combustion engine vehicle manufacturers compared to oil companies with shocking results. The researchers calculated investment carbon intensity by dividing companies' total estimated emissions by market cap. Using this metric, they found investments in legacy internal combustion engine car manufacturers were on average 18% more emissions intensive than investments in oil companies, with Ford and Stellantis more than 3 times more carbon intense than ExxonMobil and BP. That is crazy. I mean, you can see this chart here. You can see the average oil company is just nowhere near some of these big companies, Stellantis, Ford, Renault, Volkswagen, etc. ESG ratings, say The Driven, are disputable with opaque methodologies. So that's how these car companies have gotten away with it. The ratings are kind of set up to make them look better than what they really are. The authors of the report point out that the legacy auto ESG, environmental, social, and governance ratings are questionable, with very low correlation between raters. For example, Volkswagen scored ESG ratings of 88 out of 100, with S&P and 21 out of 100 with MSCI. So how are Volkswagen getting an 88 out of 100 score for basically saying they're having a good environmental impact by one agency, and then another agency is giving them 21 out of 100 for the same ratings, right? That discrepancy is enormous. 21 out of 100 versus 88 out of 100. One company is saying they're terrible, the other one's saying they're fantastic. Clearly, some kind of a weird thing is going on here. There's clearly a bit of corruption, a bit of money passing hands. I think it's fair to say, right? Anyway, from a qualitative viewpoint, it remains unclear what they actually measure. A comparison with import-based EU taxonomy alignment scores indicate that emissions are still a very marginal factor in ESG ratings, and therefore they do not serve the purpose of improving the decarbonisation portfolios. Anyway, the point here is to say, I think we know where this is all going. Legacy Auto are doing what they always do, paying for fake reports. That's what's going on here. And oil companies clearly are not paying enough for their fake reports because their fake reports are not telling the real story, which is Legacy Auto even worse than they are. They're probably both paying. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.